I'm sorry. Says the Mishnah, Maseches Metzia, Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph. Still learning about ona'a. We're about to finish the parak in a few dapim, not a few amudim. And this Mishnah gives us the exceptions to the rule. When do we say that ona'a does not apply? So before we start the Mishnah, I'd like to ask you a question, which will rise again later. Tell me, Stam, without thinking of halacha, thinking of regular everyday life, very simple, what we call belabatisha, superficial svara, ask the man in the street. Let's say you go to one store, yeah, and the person gives you a price, okay? He sells you 1.5 kilos, and you see that it's 1.5 kilos, yeah. In other words, he seems to be fair, or he's measuring a piece of string, as you say, a piece of fabric, and you see that he's otherwise an honest person. He asks you for a price. Then you go afterwards, you'll go around the market, and you see that he overpriced. He asks for a price higher than everybody else in the area. Okay, that's number one. Case number two, go to another person, and that person actually told you he's going to sell you 1.5 meters of cloth, and you say, yeah, that's 1.5 meters of a fabric, and then you see that no, that it was 1 meter and 1 meter and 40 centimeters. Yeah, it was less than he said. Which one do you think is the bigger swindler? The one who overpriced, or the one who actually gave you less amount? The one who gave you less. The one who gave you less is mamash a liar. Maybe it's a mistake. He's a thief, liar. Maybe it's a mistake. Let's be done l'chafetz zechus. Maybe not. But the one who overpriced, and this is something we have to know about ona'a, and I don't want to confuse you, but I'll tell you something quite shocking. Ona'a is not lying. Ona'a, I would define it, I thought last night when I was preparing again and again, ona'a is something which may be unfair. It's unfair. It's not a lie. In other words, a person may say, I overprice. I'm expensive. You don't like it? It's tough. A lot of service givers do it. You know, this doctor, you can say, is as good as the others. You can claim, I'm not lying to you. I'm not saying my PhD is shinier than the other one. Either he declares it or he doesn't. Yeah, maybe it's an indirect lie in a way, but he's not really lying factually. He's taking more money than anybody else. One second, than anybody else. And therefore, even in the regular Balbatish idea, it's less of an immoral thing to do. Now, the Torah came, and the Torah told us that ona'a should not be done. That's a Hekdesh of the Torah. The Torah said, no, it's unfair to overprice. Who are you to take more? And therefore, if it's up to 6, then what? You take back the extra. More than 6, the whole thing is bottle, right? I'll tell you something to stress that point. The Mechavrusa keeps quoting this Rishon every time, but I didn't see it inside. Maybe one of the Rishonim says, listen to this. He says there is no prohibition in the Torah to do ona'a. I don't know how he interprets the pasuk al lo toinu samito. It means to say, if you overpriced, the other person has the right to demand the money back or the product back. But you did not. When you come to Shemaim, you don't have a black angel flying now. You don't have an avera in your heavenly bank account. Most people don't hold that way, so please don't get confused. I'm just coming to accentuate and stress the point that ona'a, as bad as it may sound, and we kept talking about the overpricing as if it's a gimel beres chamuras. Let's look at a different perspective. It's not as bad as lying. It's not. What you get is what you see. I gave you good products. I gave it on time. I gave you down to the millimeter. I'm not lying about size or amount, which we're going to learn later on. As you remember nicely, you mentioned it from Bava Basra. No, I'm taking more money. The fact I didn't tell you I'm more expensive, that's not fair. It's really no playing a game here. But Lamaisa, there was no outright lie. This is just accept what I say, you do, and then let's keep that idea for later on. Okay, we didn't yet start the Mishnah, but there are already questions. Whoa, mushrooms after the rain, as we say. No, he was first. You know, the English get the right of way when it's rainy. So, yeah. Okay. Says the Mishnah. Having said that, some things, some items, the Torah decided ona'a does not apply to them. What does it mean ona'a doesn't apply to them? Listen, there's already machlokes rishonim. Says Rashi. Rashi doesn't say it. Rashi insinuates there is no prohibition b'chlal. There are 4 items we're going to see now where ona'a doesn't apply. There is no market price. I can lechatchila charge as much as I want, and it's not even a bad thing in the eyes of Hashem. Some rishonim say it means there's no ona'a it's not a good thing to do, but the other customer, the one who was overpriced, let's say, he cannot complain. In other words, ona'a definitely at the end of the day, ona'a doesn't apply. He can't take me to Beis Din that are overpriced. There's no overpricing at the end of the day. What are those things? Count them all. There are four. Ha'avodim, the slaves. Yeah, I shouldn't say slave on YouTube. Ha'avodim, ve'hashtoros, shtar. Let's say I sell someone my eved. I have an unbelievable, great, powerful horsepower eved. He can schlep tables all over the place and change light bulbs in a second. Yeah, and that eved is really worth in the market what? $1,000,000 and I take 1.5 million. As my son goes, a star. What's a star? How can I sell you a star? Rashi stresses here again and again, it's a star choiv. Let's say someone owes me money and he gives me a hard time paying back. I'm going to sell it to a guy with big muscles and say the guy owes me 3,000 shekels. I'll sell it to you for, give me now 700,000 shekels and the rest, and you do the collection from him. You'll be the owner of the star. You'll be now the owner of the star to collect the debt from him, and you get from him all the rest. I don't have koich to deal with him and his 3,000 shekels he never gives me for 2 years already. So therefore, I'm selling the star to somebody else. So let's say the going rate for shtoros is, or let's say 3,000 shekels is 500 shekels, let's say, nagid, and I'm selling it for 1,000, double the price. Don't come complain. Here, the Torah that does not recognize that I know is an issue. To speak generally, why is a good question, by the way. I love the question why, because we're not yet in North Korea. Why? The Gemara will explain why. Okay, really everything is from karka, an apartment. Here's your dream home in Rehavia. Let's say a dream home in Rehavia supposed to be worth let's say $5 million. I know that's very cheap. Let's say the going rate for that cheap house apartment in Rehavia is 5 million, and you sell it for 10 million. And then the American guy comes and tells you, you overpriced me. There's no overpricing by Kirkos. There are many exceptions, questions. Please accept that now as a general story here. Of course, there are limitations, but begadol, there is no overpricing or underpricing when it comes to pieces of land. And that really, we're going to see the reason later on in Amud Beis. The Hekdesh. Let's say there are two cases of Hekdesh Rashi brings down. Let's say I have an animal, which I was Makdish. Yeah, in my backyard, frolics around, I don't know, a sheep. And that sheep I want to give to ona'a as an ona'a. And now that sheep got a blemish. So now what can I do with it? I can be poide, right? I can be poide and tell my friend, hey, Mr. Friend, do you want to get my, my friend wants to buy that oila, right? And be poide for, let's say, money or for an item. Then even if the item is worth much less than the Hekdesh, or worth much more than the Hekdesh is still chal. Wow, the Hekdesh still is nifde. The Hekdesh jumps and sort of is nifde on the money that my friend gave me, and the animal is free, even if the money is worth much less than the animal or much more than the animal, and that we'll discuss later. You may remember it from the previous sugyas. Yad Hekdesh Alelyono is a question, leave that aside. Hekdesh, what's his name? The ona'a doesn't apply to that. Yeah, Hekdesh doesn't have ona'a, and all is explained later on in the Gemara. Now, all the above, and now the reason I really don't lie to you, it's all about not lying. The Gemara doesn't really give you a reason. I'm sorry. The Gemara gives you a source. The Gemara gives you, except for Hekdesh, there's a bit of a reason. The Gemara gives you a source that the psukim indicate that karka and everything else related to karka, which is evident shtar, ona'a doesn't apply to them. It's really a source in the Torah, not so much a reason. There may be a reason, we're not discussing that. Continues the Mishnah. Ein len teshlume kefel. Another common denominator between all four that we mentioned before. Who are the four? Karka. I would start with karka because that's the source. Avodim, the slaves, shtoros, and Hekdesh. There's no kefel. Kefel doesn't apply. Let's say the Yetzer Hara gets the better of me, and you have an Eved Knaini in your backyard. I go and I steal the Eved. Behuko Bekruk, maybe I offer him a better money. Women complain, she stole my ozeret. She offered her more money, So you steal someone's ozer, the Eved, you really steal him. You take him, you steal him, and then what? And then you're caught, and you have to pay how much? You have to pay kefel. No. Eved, you don't have to pay kefel. Give back the Eved, but you don't have to give kefel. The same thing applies to karka. I stole a land. Yes, I can. I put a sign. and I put all my muscular friends all around. I stole the land. It's my land now. Then, Beis Din catches me and asks me to give the karka back, please. If not, they're gonna whatever hit me. So then what? I don't have to give double. All these things doubles don't apply to that, and also Hekdesh. If somebody stole an item of Hekdesh, that's a very bad thing to do. But he doesn't have to pay Hekdesh double. By the way, the other case of Hekdesh, which I didn't say, is even more classical case, is the Gizbar. The person, the treasurer, who's in charge of all of the treasurers, there was a whole team of them, who are in charge of Beis Din's finances and goods and items, yeah? You stole something from their machsan Hekdesh, whatever, and you stole, you have to give back. Oh, of course you have to, you didn't enjoy it, no meila. You didn't actually, whatever. You just stole it and kept it in the corner. What do you have to do? You don't have to give kefel. Why? Oh, chomish is meila. If you are moyel, not every gnev is meila. That's mistake, not mistake. No, chomish, it's not by mezid. Leave that alone. It's not meila. You just took it. Now, oh, let's say it was an animal. Which animals do you have to pay 4 or 5 if you stole? Only an ox and a sheep. Sheep 4 and ox 5. So let's say we're talking about hekdesh of animals. Yeah, let's say somebody stole an animal of hekdesh. That's very common. The animals are supposed to go to the mizbech. You stole them. You don't pay 4 and 5. Why? Because whenever you don't pay 2, you don't pay kefel, you don't pay 4 or 5. Because the Gemara Bava Kama many times says, it says 4 or 5. It doesn't say 2 and 3, right? If you don't have the basis of 2, of kefel, you don't have the other things on top of that, which are the extra 2, extra 3 for those specific animals. So that doesn't apply. Now comes another bombshell. Shomer Chinam, and this we discussed yesterday in Kolel with other Avrechim for a long time. I'll give you now a short summary of what we learned. Shomer Chinam. What about if you hire your friend or ask him as a favor to do, have you heard of babysitting, dog sitting, house sitting? I've heard of that. What about Eved sitting? Can you please look after my Yoachintus, whatever? Can you look after Abdallah? I have an Eved of, 15 years old, Rowdy. Yeah, can you please look after him? Yeah, while I go away, look after my Eved for money or not for money. And then the Eved ran away. Then you were, let's say you're Poshea. Let's say the Eved was stolen, just like an item. Yeah, I'm not saying about them items, but I'm saying that Shemira, let's say there's a person shop. What about Karka? House sitting. House sitter, they do it in chasanas, right? Or when people go to chutzar to go to a chasana, they have a house sitter to make sure thieves don't come. The house sitter was on smartphone in the very chosh of the thing she watched, like a zombie. And then what? And then half the house was stolen. So what do you say? I would say shmira. A shomer has to pay. That's what we always learned since kita dales there. Yeah. What? Shia. Oh, sometimes could be shia. Sometimes they have aveda. Let's say she was looking, or he was looking pretty well, but not well enough. And what? And items were stolen, not from the house. The house was stolen, or the evidence. Yeah, somebody came into the house and took control, and he didn't notice. Yeah, he should have. He should have been more forceful against them. Or somebody stole the evid. Yeah, or the shtar. So all these cases, listen to the Mishnah has to say, unbelievable. Shemechinam einoi nishba. A shemechinam does not have to take shvua, which means, let's say there's a huge machlokes Rishonim here that stretches all over. I'm just telling you the kitzur. The kitzur is like this: a shomer chinam, according to Rashi and the Ritva and the Rambam, if the shomer chinam was poshea, you have to pay, even though you looked after those dubious things, the karka and the shtoros and the avodim, you have to pay. If the shomer chinam was caught poshea with the edim, 2 edim came and they snitched that he was poshea, he has to pay. However, let's say the shomer chinam says, I was not poshea. No, your eved was stolen and I was not negligent. You cannot, einoi nishba. You cannot take him to Beis Din and force him to take a shvua, and he will not pay you. What happens if the shomer chinam, it was gneva v'aveda? Let's say one level higher. He wasn't very negligent. He was middle of the road. He should have done better, but he was looking just about okay after the eved. He does not have to pay. A shomer chinam does not have to pay. And let's continue quickly. A shomer socher that usually has to pay b'gneva v'aveda, he does not have to pay b'gneva v'aveda. In other words, let me just unconfuse you. The halachos of the daled shomrim that you have to pay and be nishba don't don't apply to karka, eved, and shtoros. They don't. Elamai, according to Rashi, poshea is not because of dalit shomrim. It's because you're a mazik. That's what the Ritva and the Rambam say. It's like a nezek. To mamish be so negligent and bichlal not begin to look after what you're told to look after, that is so bad. Even when shmira doesn't apply regarding shvua, regarding a higher level of gneva v'aveda, that we forgive you beseder, because there the Torah said you're exempt because there is a drosha kesef okelim. I'm telling you already now, when the Torah talks about a shomer that has responsibility not only over shmira, gneva v'aveda, and he has to take shvua, the whole story. What does the Torah say in Parshas Mishpatim? That's going to happen what in 3 weeks' time? We say kesef okelim, money or items, not karka and not avodim, right? Now, pshia. Now, by the way, choices in Shavuos and many other shanim say that also applies to pshia. Even if it's playing with a smartphone and very negligent, there's no shomrim, nothing. Rashi says no. Pshia applies always because pshia is so bad, it's so unthinkable that you accepted shmira and you're so negligent, you didn't even begin to be shomer. You were super negligent. According to Rashi, even when shmira doesn't apply, that does apply. Okay? Even on the four. The whole discussion is on the four, yes. But everyone agrees that any extra chiyuvim of shmira, such as shvua is on because of a shomer. I cannot make Yitzchok take a shvua that he hasn't been yesterday to Cyprus. Who am I? Only a shomer has those. If you're a shomer, I can impose shvua on you. Those things we don't have, but those four things, by kesef karka, by karka, avodim, shtoros, and hekdesh. Very good. Yeah, that's the kulam. Because he's not called halachically a shomer when it comes to those things. The Torah says kesef ukelim, money or items, all the halachas apply to them of shomerim. Since karka, we all know that there are two universes, two completely faraway planets in halacha, in Shabbos, in Tuma, in money, in everything. There's karka and all its entourage, which is mechubel karka and avodim, and you have mitaltalin. There are two worlds apart. And usually kinyonim are different, Tuma v'Tayr is different, Shabbos is different, for binyan, everything. So these, shmira doesn't apply to them. When you're poshea, maybe you're so out of line, even on those things you may be chad, so zok the Ritva, the Rashi, Rambam. And there are many on the other side, the Ramban, the Rashba, Rabbi Shimon Oimer, says Rabbi Shimon, one more idea here, and he makes an exception to the rule. Kodshim shuchayev be'achrayuson yesh le'enu ino. What does that mean? Excuse me. Kodshim shuchayev be'achrayuson is as follows. Let's say, literally to translate to nice English, Kodshim, whom you're responsible for. Simple, achrayut, responsibility, right? Okay. What does it mean? Kodshim that you're responsible for, yesh le'enu ino, oino applies to it. I continue the Mishnah. Kodshim that I'm not responsible for, there's no oino. I like your face because that makes me want to explain it even more. There are two ways for a person, and we've seen it before, and we'll see it again. Let's say a person wants to say thank you to Hashem. I want to give Hashem korban toda, right? Very nice. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. I got a good report about my daughter. Very nice. I want to say toda to Hashem. Very nice. So now, how do I do that? I go to the backyard to the Shepsaleh, and then I can say one of two things. Yeah, that applies in Rosh Hashanah and many places. I can either say, listen carefully, I'm sure you've heard it in the past. You can either say Harei Zu Oila, or Shlomim in my case, this Shepsaleh, yes, this very one with the black dot on the left ear, this is Oila, and no other animal in my herd is Ola, right? Or I can say Harei Alai Oila, I am responsible upon me to bring an Ola. Let's say that Ola dies. Let's say that, falling in shape with the left thing on the ear dies. It dies naturally. I didn't do anything. I didn't do it. It died naturally. Old age, I don't know what. If I said Arei Zu Oila, this animal should be Oila or Shlomim, what do? Nothing. Bury it respectfully. I don't know, nothing. I said, this is Oila. I didn't say, I have to bring an Oila. This animal will be Oila. If this is dead, I am not responsible. I specifically focused and said, this animal is Ola. Therefore, I'm not responsible. This animal should be Ola as long as it exists. Now it's in Olam Haba. I'm joking. But when you say Olai Oila, it's incumbent upon me. I have on my shoulders the chiyuv to bring Ola. I have a responsibility, right? And therefore, if this animal dies, I have to bring another one, right? You owe money to somebody, yeah? You have a 100 shekel note ready. The 100 shekel note got very, very wet in the rain. Bring him another 100. He doesn't care, right? It's your responsibility. That's what it means. Now, listen. You tell me now. Let's say somebody, yeah, let's say somebody now steals it from me. Let's say somebody stole the animal. That's a case in Bava Kama. He stole the animal from me, stolen, and he will never give it back. He stole it and he took it to China. So now, if I said hare olai, or if I said hare zu oila, it didn't really cause me any loss. I'm just not going to bring the korban. I feel bad. I planned on having that nice mitzvah. Financially, didn't make me lose because that animal belonged to Beis HaMikdash. Maybe it's between him and Hashem. I'm out of the picture. I don't have to bring another one instead. But if I said olai oila and he stole it, he caused me a loss indirectly, but it caused me a loss. He stole. It's like he stole the 100 shekel there to give now the guy, right? He stole the animal. I am now stuck, baby in hands. I'm stuck with a with a balagan of having to bring another olah. So all these long story proved us one thing: kochim that you're responsible for are indirectly yours. Although the kochim kilo belong to Hashem, but because if that animal would be stolen, I will have to bring from my own pocket. I'll have to dish out another animal worth, I don't know, 1,500 shekels. Lemaisa, this animal, which is Hekdesh's but my responsibility, is indirectly mine. We had this in Bava Kama. And therefore, yesh le'noino. So if I sell such an animal to someone after it was blemished, yeah, then oino does apply. Because says Reb Shimon, this animal belongs to Hekdesh, but indirectly in the background, it's really yours, right? Because you'd be responsible if anything happens, right? Therefore, it's not considered 100% Hekdesh to not have oino. It does have oino, and if I sell it and overprice it, then the guy will come back screaming at me, and he'll be right. That's Reb Shimon. We're not focusing on it right now, but this is what Reb Shimon said. Rabbi Yehuda. No, we went back to oino. Back to oino. No, we're back to oino. Back to oino. Kiddush is okay. No, good point. You're comparing everything together. I'm going to look into it. Now, you want to say Baruch that just like Hekdesh, which is not completely Hekdesh, but is mine b'tzad achrayas. If I sold it or no applies, maybe also for Shmira would also apply. Choliot, could very well be. I didn't connect everything. We were too busy with the other. Let's continue. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Here comes Rabbi Yehuda with a big Hekdesh, and he says like this. And this I told you many times before. Af amoicher sefer Torah, behema umargolis en leimoino. Says Rabbi Yehuda, some things sounds like an advertisement for a jewelry store, priceless. Some things no does not apply to them because people are willing to pay millions for them. Sefer Torah says that Tiferet Yisrael, Sefer Torah Yekorahim Ipninim. Yeah, it's totally Torah Spicham Al Tizov Chesef. Yeah, a Sefer Torah, a Sefer Stam tells you, I'm writing the Sefer Torah for how much? For I don't know, 200,000 shekels, 500,000 shekels. There's no overpricing. That's Sefer Torah. The other Sefer Torah in the market, I don't know, 100,000 shekels, let's say, and yours is 1 million. Tough luck, or not tough luck. Pay more money. It's Torah. By the way, I'm only telling you from a general knowledge. The Gemara will not discuss it today. Behema, an animal. Why is an animal priceless? Because sometimes they have a team. I have an ox of a specific type. How do you plow your fields, guys? You have 2 oxen, right? That's how I plow my field, yeah? And you need another ox for that part. Why part's expensive? Because you need that specific part for that specific machine, right? True? Or for that car, for that air condition, right? And the other, Toyota won't fit the Mazda. So too, the animals, yeah, when you work in a farm, you need that specific animal. You pay millions because that's the specific animal you need for that type of work. I'm talking general now. Margolis is a piece of jewel, like a diamond, yeah. Margolis, sometimes the Gemara says people have one Margolis fell off your wife's, I don't know, ring, yeah, and you need specifically this one to set it in. You need this color and this size and this shape for that specific design that you have. No other design. So for you, it's worth much, much more than for other people. So therefore, conceptually, it says Rabbi Yehuda there too, and le'moino. Again, that's not the discussion today. That's just the Mishnah. Amru lo, what? Slombisis prices. Amru lo, so they told Rabbi Yehuda, Amru eles elu. Tanakama argues and says, no. Chachamim, following the Torah, of course, they said no. The only 4 items where no, it does not apply is only, again, karka, avodim, shtoros, and hekdesh, not the other things. In other words, it's a very nice svara, what Rabbi Yehuda says, but Chachamim don't accept it, and that's not even today's discussion. Oh, now we're coming to the main part, the Gemara. Minahani mili. Correct the Gemara. How do you know? How do you know that oino does not apply to a piece of land, and I can overprice or underprice, by the way, a piece of land? The Tono Bonon. It says in the Brisa, quoting the Torah. Where's the pasuk that tells me that oino is wrong? It says, "V'chitim keru mimkar la amitecho." If you sell a mimkar la amitecho, sell something you sell a mimkar to your friend, yeah. Oikono miyad amitecho. Or you buy something from the hand. It's not Zoom. It's me who got stuck. From the hand of your amitecha, from your friend. When you buy something hand from hand, says the Gemara, dobar nikne miyad liyad. Something that you physically carry and you give over from one hand to the other, there oino applies because it says yad, hand. Last time I checked, unless it's 1 cloud of earth, you can't really take an entire apartment or take an acre of land in your hands. Maybe Superman can do that. I don't know. Most of us can't. Yeah, you can't carry it from hand to hand, and therefore it doesn't apply. So as I told, it's not a svara. It's just a xersa kosuv as of now, right? However, 1 second, karka doesn't apply to it. Let me just, I'll be with you soon. Yotzu avodim. What about avodim? I can take an eved from hand to hand, right? The eved is a light guy, 15 years old, and he's yeah, I can take him and schlep from hand to hand. So we say, no, that's nice. However, as we saw many times, Yotzu avodim shehuk shulakarkois. In many areas in halacha, avodim have the same halachas for karkois, such as for kinyan, and for shvua, and for all these things. Avodim huk shulakarkois. Avodim are mukash to karka because it says visnachaltem oisom. What's mitnachel? Settler. You give them as a settlement to your children, and that refers to the avodim. So avodim are like karka. Okay, I'm with you. If it's yeah. And other items all the time, right? We're not talking about oino, my friends. The issue right now is oino, not shmira and not shvus shomrim. Oino. Why can I overprice or be the eved? Why does overpricing not apply to karka? That's why it says miyad, hand to hand, and avodim are best friends with karka. Whatever applies to karka applies to avodim almost always. So now, what about shtoros? Shtoros is different. What's a shtar? Yeah, I have an IOU document in my drawer that my friend owes me 3,000 shekels, and I sold it to you for 1,000. And then you tell, hey, Akiva, the going price for such a thing is 500. Why 1,000? Why is that? Yes, okay to do it. Yeah, says the Gemara. You know why? Yotzu shtoros, the chtiv shtoros are excluded because it says v'chitim keru mimkar. Why the double lotion? You sold a sold item. Well, if I sold it, it's a sold item. What do you mean tim keru mimkar? It's a Torah. It's not a website. It says in Gemara, shegufay machu v'gufay konui. Only something whose body itself has its own physical value for buying and selling. Yotzu shtaros, the shtar is a piece of A4 paper, not shava pruta. It's worth maybe 2 agorot. The regular A4 white paper, she'en gufan mochur, the body is not sold. Ben gufan konui. The body itself is not what you're buying. You're buying the 3,000 shekels that are written in it with a signature of the friend, of the lover. The einen omdin ela l'raya shebahem. They're only there as, I would say, spiritually, the content is there for raya, for proof. Yeah, you go to your friend and you show, you owe 3,000 shekels to Akiva, and now you owe it to me, he's going to pay, right? It's a proof. It's a spiritual content that's in there. It's not something, the paper itself is worth nothing. You can have a check, a regular check with, I don't know, 10 million in it, a bank check. And the checks are not so fashionable anymore. The check itself, how much it's worth? The check itself, I don't know. Checkbook is, I don't know, shekels, nothing. The silver makes it maybe 10 shekels worth. The content is 1 million, yeah? So lemaisa, because the body is not what you're buying, the content of what you're buying, therefore it's not called timkiru mimkar. It's not called mimkar. It's not something you bite into or you actually wear the actual thing. Mikan omu, and therefore from here we derive and we paskin from here. Lebasam. What happened if I have a very nice piece of shtar and the shtar is not worth anything anymore? Let's say the milva was paid, or the guy will never ever pay me. Let's say I sell the shtar to a perfume maker. Why does the perfume maker want it? Because he wants the paper. That paper is nice. He wants to cover the perfume so the perfume doesn't go, so the aroma doesn't drift away, doesn't go away. He wants to cover it. He just wants the paper itself. He wants the actual paper, not the shtar, the million that's on it. He wants the paper. If I sold that to him, yes, let me know. Then I know does apply. Because of course the shtar, yeah, if I'm not selling it for the 10 million written, I'm selling it for the actual value of the paper, then I know it applies like anything else. Frag the Gemara, Pshita, of course. Why not? If I sell the paper and it's very, very clear that the million is not relevant anymore, and I'm selling it as a piece of paper, of course I know it applies. Why not? It's like any other physical item. Answers the Gemara. You want to suggest something or answers the Gemara? I want to surprise you. If so, what's the Hekdesh? If the paper is worth, so what's the Hekdesh? No, applies to the paper, right? Right? It's like a table and a chair. So what does Gemara have to say? It's simple. If it's like you, if it's worth a lot. Good. Pshita means you're right. You're so right, the parrots. The question is, why did the Gemara have to mention that? If the paper is expensive and I sold it for more, instead of 100 shekel, I sold it for 200, of course I know it applies. Just like it applies to shoes and socks and computers. Why is there a Hekdesh? But it's no, but we clearly said we're not there for the evidence or for the content. So what's a Hekdesh? Answers the Gemara just the other way around from what you said. La puki midar Rav Kahana. That comes, the reason why we mentioned it was to reject the opinion of Rav Kahana, which we've seen recently. Doma, he said, Ein ona'a leprutos. Remember those machloikes? Does ona'a apply to a pruta or to an isar? Isar is 8 prutos. Rav Kahana says ona'a doesn't apply to a pruta. Ona'a only applies if the amount you were cheated on was isar, was 8 prutos. Only then it applies. Let's assume now that the paper was dafka cheap. Let's assume the paper was cheap and worth a pruta, or 2 or 3, below pruta and isar. Interesting. It was actually a cheap piece of paper or piece of cloth. Interestingly enough, Kamash Malan comes the Hekdesh. Yes or no, the pruta is full stop. The Hekdesh is yes, even if the paper is small and cheap, like today. Like today's paper, I don't think one A4 is shove pruta. You buy a whole bunch of them for a few shekels, right? And therefore, the Hekdesh is, even if the paper is only worth 1 pruta, not more, and I was moine you be pruta, still the ona'a applies, and I'll go back to take you to Beis Din for those pruta of 10 agorot. That's a Hekdesh. Okay, I thought like you, comes the Gemara, no, it's cheap. The Hekdesh, no, even though it's very cheap, and Rav Kahana would say, get out of here. It's less than Isar, stop dragging the cup. We pass him not like Rav Kahana, and we say ona'a does apply to a difference of a pruta, and you can take it to Beis Din and take back the pruta. And that's a Hekdesh of a shtar that is not sold for the million in it, that's sold for the actual paper. Hekdesh. How do you know that Hekdesh? By the way, I want to give now. I have a little bit more of not time. I have more rachbas and nefesh because we finished the Mishnah. What's the story of Hekdesh again? What's the story of Hekdesh? A few scenarios. We're not talking about shomer. What are we talking about? We're talking about selling. Ona'a. So let's say the Gizbar sold me, the treasurer Beis HaMikdash sold me something of Hekdesh, meaning it's really transferring the Kedusha. I bought an item from Beis HaMikdash and my money now became holy instead. And really, either I overpriced or I was underpriced. Either way, it applies. The Hekdesh applies. Yeah. I like this question very, 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 very much. Correct, Rabbi Baruch from the Peanut Gallery. What about what we said before? Hekdesh Shad Hekdesh Alay Yono. So what do you mean? You want to tell me that I can underprice Hekdesh? That's wrong. So we saw through the Rambam. The Rambam says that midorabanan you'd have to add the price. In other words, let's say I want to buy a shepsel from someone That shepsel has a blemish, but it's still kosher to eat, not kosher for the mizbeach. And I say, you have an animal with the mum, you're allowed to sell it now. You're allowed to be pointed Hekdesh. I want that for my Shabbos dinner. Yeah, for my birthday on Shabbos. Yeah, and what? And now the money will become kodosh. So let's say now I gave you 500 shekels, and the animal's worth 1,000. Is the animal free of Hekdesh? Yes. Hekdesh the Hekdesh always has to win. What did we say in the Rambam? Later on, I'll have to be mashlim, complement, and give him the other 500. But that's a separate cheshbon. But Hekdesh is off. Hekdesh is removed regardless of the amount of money. That's what we say, Hekdesh and loino, right? But you're right, Baruch. At the end of the day, waiting around the corner would be the gizbar or the owner say, you still have an old debt. But Hekdesh is. If Hekdesh sold me something and overpriced, they will not give me back. Oh, that's also true. That will be discussed in the next Amud, which hopefully we'll see tomorrow. But the rate we're going now, I hope we're not saying in a week. That will be discussed. What you're saying that Hekdesh, Gizbar is really Shlich of Hashem, so everything that he does is right. That's also right. What's his source? Before the why and the what in philosophy, the Gemara wants to know who told you. How do you know that Hekdesh, or no, it doesn't apply to Hekdesh? It says in the post. Look, Achiv, very simple. Lo toinu ishas Achiv. Don't cheat, don't do it. No, one person and his brother. Achiv lo Hekdesh. Hekdesh is not your brother. I'm sorry. Hashem is not your brother. Hashem is not your friend. Yeah. Achiv is not Hekdesh. Hekdesh is somebody way above you. He's not Achiv, and therefore, it doesn't apply either way. Punto. Frag the Gemara. Now the Gemara is going to ask you a question on Yodoi. What did we say? What's the source of the entire chain? How did it start? The word Yodoi. Yeah. Right? You buy something from the hand of your friend, excluding karka, which you cannot really hold in your hand. Frag the Gemara. Rabba bar Memel attacks what we said. Yodoi mamishu. Are you sure? Every time the Torah says in his hand or hand, it means physically held by someone's hand. Is that so? Elameata, according to your interesting logic, every time the word hand means physical hand in English, when you say, I see that this project at work is out of my hands, it's not in my hands. You mean physically? No. You mean control. You mean authority. You mean domain, right? Elameata, dichtiv, it says about Moshe Rabbeinu when he won the 2 wars about Sichon and Oig. He won the war against Sichon Melech Heshbon, in Transjordan. Moshe Rabbeinu took the entire land from the hand of Sichon. As big as Sichon was, Achinami here too, they call Arab Yoda have an okit law. You tell me Sichon actually held his entire country in his hand? Even in North Korea, I don't think the guy manages to do that. He'd like to. Is he holding it in his hand? Avaranot. Elamir Shusoi. Rishus means in his domain or his authority, his control. That's right. It's not in my hands, right? Ochanami here too. Milshusoi. Wait, maybe here also. Maybe when the Torah says don't cheat, don't do it's telling you anything miyad, meaning from his domain. Whenever you buy something from your friend's authority, domain, control, that can be a land. My land is not in my hand, but I'm the owner. Look in the tabu. Who's the owner of your apartment? You, right? So it doesn't have to be in your hand. And maybe therefore the word hand does not necessarily exclude karka, and maybe should apply to karkois. That's a question. Frag the Gemara. Now the Gemara is asking back. Now counter question. Frag the Gemara. On the other hand, you want to tell me anytime it says in the Torah hand, it automatically means a general term, not his physical hand. It means the authority, the idea, the domain, the control. Is that so? That's also wrong. I'll prove it from other places just the other way. Sometimes hand means very specifically his hand. From 2 places. Vatanya, one source. It says about a thief, how much does the ganav have to pay when he stole? Regular stuff, not karka, not avodim. He has to pay what? Kefil. He has to pay double. And what does it say in the Torah? Im himotze timotze beyodoi. If the item should be, okay, I'm giving into art school. If the item should be surely found in his hand, but it'll take twice himotze. Soon you'll see why. If it was found in his hand beyodoi, then he has to pay kefil. Enli frek the Gemara the Braisa in Bavakamim. Enli elayodoi. That is only true by his hand. Now by ganav it makes sense. Are you only mechayev gneva of kefil, the knas kefil, on a guy with his own bare hands, very blue collar kind of crime? He actually stole it in his hands. Only then you mechayev him to pay kefil? Says the Gemara, gagoy chatzeroi v'kopei for minayin. Let's say the item fell, lucky man, it fell into his roof, yeah, and he locked the door and blocked access. Let's say the animal or the ball came to his chotzer, front yard, karpifo, backyard, and he, bemezid, he's a white collar guy. It came to my hand. Hashem loves me. And he locks the door, he locks the gate. The Tzotzer Choshen says only if he locks it. Kinyan chotzer, no, I'm not going to give you the ball or the animal or whatever, yeah. How do you know minayin? How do you know he also has to pay kefil? Yeah. Amud loymar imimotze timotze mikol mokoim. That's what it says twice. Timotze, that even if it wasn't actually in his hands, but was found anywhere else, even not in his hand, it was more of an indirect theft, but he did lock the door in front of the animal, not letting it out. He also has to pay kefil. Let's analyze it. It's true that there it's not the physical hand, but why? The Gemara says, time at the cost of Rachmana in himotze timotze. The only reason why we extend, this is Dak, the only reason why we extend the definition of yad to domain, authority, his backyard, his swimming pool, his tennis court, wherever the item is found, that's only because the Torah gave you an extra word, himotze timotze, to include all other indirect places that are in his authority and he controls. Lavachi. But let's say the Torah wouldn't have said the extra word himotze timotze. Havamina kolecha the cost of yodo yodo mamishu. You see that if not the word himotze timotze, just by the word yodo alone, the word yodo alone would have indicated only yad gneva in his hands. Again, I repeat. Also, Zoom froze. Yeah. Again, let's analyze. The Torah says in himotze timotze, the item was found in his hands. If not for the word himotze timotze, sounds clearly that only gneva with his hand, he took it like, like the thief in the cartoons, with the sack behind his back. Only then he's chayev. But if it's a gneva that came to his authority and he kept quiet and didn't do anything, then Yodeh would not mean authority. I need extra words for that, himotze timotze. So you see that the dictionary translation of the word Yodeh means his hand. No, so sometimes yad does mean physical hand. So that does support our idea that by oino, only something in your hand, like metaltalin, there's no oino, but there is oino, but karka there isn't. The two, we'll repeat again. The two, another proof of exactly the same idea. Another proof to the same idea that what? That the hand means physical hand. And that's a sad story of a couple of what? She didn't make him blinches for a whole week, no blinches. And what happens then? Divorces is right away. Tanya, it says in the Brisa, V'nosan beyodo. What's V'nosan beyodo? He should give the hand, place the get where? In her hand. Like this, inside her hand. Okay. And the yodo, I know that the get has to be given over and actually mamish placed in the woman's hand. And then she's divorced. Wait a second. Gaga chatzer v'karpet minayin. What happened if he threw it on her roof? She has her own private house. Yeah, he doesn't own it. He placed it on her gag. He threw it to her backyard, front yard, v'chulei. How do you know that kinyan chotzer also applies? And if the man threw it into her private house, she's going to be kinyan chotzer. How do you know that? Talmud loymar v'nosan mikol mokoim. Because it says and he gives means any giving. He could have said beyodo yitnenu. From some reason, we learned in Daf Yud, v'nosan, the word nosan is more all-inclusive to tell me not only her physical hand, also other domains that belong to her that are like her hand. Again, the same idea. Dr. Gemara, time the kosa of v'nosan. You see, it's only because the Torah wrote v'nosan, extra word to extend and expand and tell me not only the physical hand. Halav achi. It's not for that extra word. If the Torah would have only said beyodo without v'nosan, I would have thought v'lecha the cost of yodo mamish. You see. So you see, yad means physical, actual hand. Yeah, those bones and that blood and flesh and blood. Yeah. So you see, yodo means yodo mamish. You see by a ganev, you see by a woman. Unless the Torah tells you otherwise, the Torah means yodo, means physical hand, and therefore by karka and metaltalin of oino, which is the issue we have now at hand. Excuse the pun. So now when we have the issue of oino, then the Gemara is right. That what? because it says miyad amitecho, right? A karka is not in his physical hand. So Ella, let's look up. Of course, we have a question from where? From Sichoin, from the big king that Moshe won over. Ella comes to conclusion. Call yoda mamishu. The general rule of the Torah, when the Torah says hand in halachic context, it means physical hand. Normally, the normal dictionary definition of yadoi, gitin, gneva, ona'a, yoda means physical hand. It's in your hand, not in your authority. It's not, cryptocurrency over here. What about sichaun? The shiny hossam over there. Over there, but the case of sichaun, when the Torah clearly doesn't mean physical hand, as big as sichaun was, he did not actually hold his country in his hand. He means his authority, the domain. Then he means that it's an exception to the rule. Yeah. You guys never studied English. I did. So, yeah. Metaphorically, that's right. How many exceptions to the rules are in the past tense in English? I think more exceptions than the rule. Right? So, Mimela, what? There are many exceptions to the rule. Here's an exception. What's the exception? Here, metaphorically, hand means a domain, the idea. But in halacha, when we say yoda, it means yoda mamish. And therefore, here, karka is excluded. Weiter. Good. So these are the sources. As I said, we did not give explanations. We gave sources. I think, but Lamaisa, I'm not going to say what I think because I was wrong. I was proven wrong by my friends, so I will not. I'll not say an idea which I had. By Rabbi Zera, comes Rabbi Zera, and he comes with a question. Schirus. Have you ever rented a car in your life? Let's say a person wants to rent a cow, or rent a car, or rent metaltalin, says the Ritva. Not karka. Karka, no. What about if I rented a car and then I realized, and that this guy who's renting me car is a moonlighter kind of guy. He's renting me the car, renting out the car, and I'm hiring the car for a week. He's asking for, I don't know, 10,000 shekels. The innocent American tourist, gives him 10,000. All of a sudden realizes what? He drives around and his Israeli friends say, you're flyer. 1 week, 10,000? No way. He way overpriced you. Is there by schirus or no? They think there isn't. No, you're saying in this country. Let's see how the Gemara analyzes it. By karka, there's no, because even by selling, there's no, let alone by schirus. That's a ritva, not me. When it comes to metaltalin schirus, a cow, rent a computer, it's done nowadays, like Haredim a lot. Yeah, you rented something, and at some point you realize, hey, I have been ripped off. Can you go back to the guy? Yes or no? What's the question? Now, don't tell me anything about moral and all that. What's the word of the Torah? Schirus. Yesh lo no, ein lo no. Is there a no or is there a no? And the Gemara will explain the question. Mimkar. The Torah says the word mimkar, right? A sold item. Omar Rachmana. The Torah says if you get a sold item for sale for too much. Avaloy schirus, that's not selling. One would argue, I didn't sell. So maybe when it comes to schirus, it's gzersa kostuv, doesn't apply. I did not buy the car of him. I rented it from him for a week. That's all. Or maybe deal maloy shna. Maybe there shouldn't be a difference. Maybe at the end of the day, schirus, the same unfair idea of what? Of overpricing. However, the Torah views overpricing of metaltalin is unfair and unjust. It applies here too. Maybe mimkar is not dafka sold. Maybe it's more broad, and we say anytime it was overpriced regarding metaltalin. And note your wife. I really have to speak to your wife about something else. Omar le'abaye, very nice. Did you hear that? Omar le'abaye, miksiv mimkar le'olam, mimkar stomaksiv. Does it say mimkar le'olam? Did it ever say that the sale that I sell it's the sale that I do is forever, is for eternity? It says mimkar, any type of mimkar. Behai nami beyoymei mechirahi. Schirus is like selling for a short period of time, and that's a famous line. And here's the source for this line: But Metzia and Bava Amud Beis, which means when I rent a car for a week, you can philosophize about it a lot. There's a lot of stories. Mechlokes imram amrayvet kinyan chotzer. Begadol, what we're saying here is when you rent a car for a week, that little Daihatsu, Zichron Livrocha, whatever, yeah, for 1 week, and he overcharged you. That is like a sale for a week. It's yours for a week. Yeah, you have to give that good condition. You can philosophize about it for hours. We say now that schirus is like a sale for a limited amount of time, vis-a-vis ona'a. Therefore, ona'a applies. Says the Shulchan Aruch that really ona'a applies to items that are rented. A big chiddush that I saw in Shulchan Aruch from the Rishonim. Yeah, I'm allowing myself to add a little bit over here. We're actually about to start a new issue soon. How much time do I have? What's the window of time I have to complain about being overpriced? Please tell me, because I'm going around the shuk. Go around the shuk. This phone was, let's say, I was overcharged 600 shekels. Yeah, go around 500, go back to him. Enough time to go around the Merkaz Mischari. What? Yeah, until I talk to Tagar relation. What about rent? Rent is for a month, and it will be over in a month. And the Ikar din schirus eni mishalemes elo lebasof. The halacha says schirus you have to pay at the end of a month. At the end of every month, if you rent a house, at the end of the rental period of the car. I'm not saying namina gemako in here. I don't know. Oh, saying this says the Shulchan Aruch, I can complain and give back and break the deal, claiming it was overpriced the entire time, a whole month. In other words, if I rented the car for a month and 20 days later I found out, you ripped me off, I can still come to him as long as the time is not over. As opposed to a sale, which only has a limited amount of time at the beginning. Why? A sale I have to pay right away, Mikardin. And a rent, I only have to pay at the end. So as long as I didn't have to pay, halachically, don't tell me what's going on today. Halachically, the chiyuv payment starts at the end. I'm driving for a month up to the Galil and to Eilat and all over Israel. So the Maisa, all this time, I only have to pay the end. So as long as I don't have to pay the end, I can still go back to him and say, hey, mister, in the middle of my trip, go back to B'Chemesh and scream and say, you overpriced me. I want to break the deal or get back the money, whatever the story is. I hope I'm not wrong. Mechabrusa wants to be different. I believe that's what Shulchan Aruch means. We can maybe read it tomorrow. It's time. Yes. You